"Don't touch that vehicle unless you're actually buying it." The words cracked across the showroom floor so sharply that conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Coffee cups paused halfway to lips. Even the soft jazz drifting from the ceiling speakers seemed to disappear for a second. Standing beside a brand-new luxury SUV priced at nearly $90,000, Monica Hayes slowly lifted her hand away from the glossy black paint. She didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She simply looked at the man who had spoken. His name tag read Trevor Mills. Sales manager. Mid-40s. Crisp suit. Perfect smile. The kind of smile that vanished the moment he decided someone didn't belong. Monica stood in faded jeans, a plain black t-shirt, and white sneakers. No designer handbag. No jewelry worth mentioning. No signs of wealth. Exactly as planned. Trevor folded his arms and looked her up and down. "Those vehicles are for serious buyers," he said loudly enough for nearby customers to hear. A few people exchanged uncomfortable glances. Monica's expression never changed. She had seen that look before. 20 years earlier. 10 years earlier. Last year. Different faces. Same assumption. Across the showroom, sunlight spilled through floor-to-ceiling glass windows, reflecting off rows of polished vehicles. The building carried the name Hayes Automotive Group across the front entrance in giant silver letters. Yet nobody seemed to recognize the woman whose last name was attached to every sign. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Monica Hayes. Trevor pointed toward the opposite side of the showroom. "If you're looking for something more affordable, we have pre-owned inventory in the back lot." A couple standing nearby glanced at Monica and then at the SUV. The husband looked away quickly. His wife frowned but said nothing. Monica nodded once. "I see." Trevor smirked. "Trust me, you'll probably be more comfortable over there." The air felt different now. Not loud. Not hostile. Just charged. Like everyone sensed something was wrong, but nobody wanted to be the first to say it. Monica slowly walked around the vehicle, studying every detail. Trevor's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, did you hear me?" She stopped and looked at him. "I heard you. Then why are you still standing here?" A young salesperson nearby pretended to organize brochures while quietly watching. Another employee whispered something and chuckled. Monica noticed everything. Every glance. Every reaction. Every decision. That was the point of today. 3 weeks earlier, customer complaints had landed on her desk. Too many complaints. Stories about customers being ignored, judged, redirected, treated differently based on appearance. She had decided to see the truth herself. No executives. No announcements. No warning. Just reality. Trevor stepped closer. "Look, I'm trying to save both of us some time." Monica met his eyes. Calm. Unshaken. "And what makes you think I need saving?" The smile slipped from his face for the first time. Around them, the showroom seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere in the distance, a printer hummed. A phone rang. A customer laughed. Yet all of it felt far away. Because neither Trevor nor anyone else in that dealership had the slightest idea that the woman standing in front of them wasn't a shopper. She wasn't a visitor. She wasn't even a customer. She was the owner. And before the day was over, half the staff inside that showroom would wish they had never opened their mouths. Monica Hayes watched Trevor walk away with the confidence of a man who believed he had already won the interaction. He headed toward a well-dressed white couple who had entered the showroom less than 30 seconds earlier. His entire posture changed. His smile returned. His shoulders relaxed. Within moments, he was offering bottled water, discussing financing options, and opening the driver's side door of a luxury sedan as if welcoming royalty. Monica noticed every detail. The contrast was impossible to miss. 10 minutes earlier, she had been told to look at used vehicles in the back lot. Now a customer who had not asked a single question was being treated like the most important person in the building. Monica slowly continued walking through the showroom. Hayes Automotive Group had grown from one dealership into more than 60 locations across the country. She remembered signing the lease on the first store nearly 20 years ago. Back then she had worked 7 days a week. She knew every department. Sales, service, finance, customer care. She had built the company around one principle. Every customer deserved respect before they spent a dollar. Looking around now, she wondered how far some locations had drifted from that standard. Near the center of the showroom stood a young salesman organizing brochures at a reception desk. His name tag read Ethan Parker. Unlike the others, he did not seem amused by what had happened. In fact, he looked uncomfortable. Twice he glanced toward Monica. Twice he looked away. The hesitation told her more than words could. Ethan had seen something wrong. He simply was not sure whether speaking up was worth the risk. Across the showroom, Trevor laughed at something the white couple said and handed them keys for a test drive vehicle. Monica checked the time on her phone. The investigation had officially been underway for 17 minutes. Already she had observed enough behavior to justify concern. Then another employee approached her. A woman named Karen Blake from the sales floor. Karen forced a polite smile that never reached her eyes. "Can I help you find something within your budget?" she asked. Monica raised an eyebrow. "Within my budget?" Karen immediately backtracked. "I just mean we have different price ranges available." Monica nodded slowly. "Interesting." Karen pointed toward a row of entry-level vehicles near the far wall. None of them were the models Monica had been examining. None of them were the vehicles generating the dealership's highest profit margins. Before Monica could respond, a customer entered through the main doors. An older white man wearing golf attire. Karen's attention shifted instantly. "Excuse me," she said before hurrying away. Monica stood alone again, invisible when assumptions took over. The showroom floor felt less like a place of business and more like a stage where everyone had already decided what role she belonged in. A few feet away, Ethan finally gathered enough courage to approach. He lowered his voice. "Ma'am, are you being helped?" Monica looked at him carefully. "That depends on your definition of help." Ethan glanced toward Trevor, then back at Monica. His expression tightened. "I am sorry about what happened earlier." Monica studied him for a moment. There it was. The first crack in the wall. Not everyone inside this dealership was comfortable with what they were witnessing. Not everyone believed the same things. Ethan looked like he wanted to say more, but before he could, Trevor's voice echoed across the showroom once again. This time louder than before. "Ethan, stop wasting time and get back to real customers." The room fell quiet. And for the first time that morning, Monica saw embarrassment flash across Ethan's face. The embarrassment hanging over Ethan lasted only a second before he lowered his eyes and stepped back toward the reception desk. Trevor smiled as though he had just restored order. Several employees laughed quietly. One shook his head. Another returned to scrolling on a tablet. The moment passed for everyone except Monica. She noticed how quickly people adjusted to behavior that should have made them uncomfortable. That was always the danger. Bad culture rarely announced itself. It became normal, one small decision at a time. Monica resumed walking through the showroom. She stopped beside a luxury pickup truck displayed on a polished platform near the center of the floor. The sticker price said just above $85,000. Before she could examine the interior, another salesperson appeared. His name tag read Scott Reynolds. He carried the same rehearsed smile she had already seen several times that morning. "Those models require pre-qualification before test drives," he said. Monica looked at him. "Do they?" Scott nodded confidently. "Store policy." Monica glanced across the showroom. At that exact moment, Trevor handed keys to the white couple he had been helping earlier. Neither had completed paperwork. Neither had provided financial information. They were already heading toward the parking lot. Monica returned her gaze to Scott. "Interesting policy." Scott followed her eyes and immediately understood what she had noticed. His smile faded. "Different situation." "How?" Monica asked calmly. Scott shifted his weight. "Experience." Monica said nothing. Silence often revealed more than questions. The showroom suddenly felt warmer. Somewhere behind her, a service advisor laughed with a customer. Phones rang. Printers hummed. Business continued as usual, while assumptions quietly shaped every interaction. Near the entrance, another customer arrived. A middle-aged black man wearing work boots and a construction company shirt. Monica watched what happened next. No employee approached him. Not one. 30 seconds passed. Then 60. Finally, he walked toward a reception desk himself. Meanwhile, two salespeople immediately moved to greet a younger white customer who had entered after him. Monica felt her jaw tighten. Not because she was surprised. Because the pattern was becoming impossible to deny. The complaints she had received were no longer stories on paper. They were unfolding right in front of her. Ethan noticed it too. Monica could tell from the way his expression changed. He looked from the ignored customer to Trevor and then back again. For a moment, it seemed as though he might speak. Instead, he remained silent. Fear had a way of keeping good people quiet. Trevor eventually returned from outside after sending the white couple on their test drive. He spotted Monica near the pickup truck and sighed dramatically. "You are still here?" Several employees smirked. Monica folded her arms. "I am." Trevor laughed. "Most people get the hint." The words landed heavily. A few nearby customers exchanged looks. One older woman frowned openly. Another customer stopped pretending not to listen. Trevor either did not notice or did not care. Confidence radiated from him. The confidence of someone who believed there would never be consequences. Then Monica noticed something else. High above the showroom floor, mounted near a support beam, a security camera pointed directly toward their location. Another camera overlooked the entrance. Another covered the reception desk. Every interaction, every comment, every decision, recorded. Trevor followed her gaze upward and misunderstood completely. "Cameras are for security," he said with a grin. Monica looked back at him. "Sometimes they are." Something about her tone made his smile weaken. Only slightly, but enough. For the first time that morning, Trevor looked uncertain. And for the first time that morning, Monica knew the dealership was about to reveal far more than anyone inside expected. The uncertainty on Trevor's face disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. He straightened his tie, forced a smile, and turned away as though the conversation had already ended. But the atmosphere inside the showroom had changed. People were paying attention now. The older woman who had frowned earlier remained near the reception area instead of continuing her shopping. The construction worker who had been ignored was still waiting for assistance. Even a few employees seemed less comfortable than before. Monica noticed all of it. The dealership floor no longer felt smooth and predictable. Small cracks were beginning to appear. Across the showroom, Ethan Parker stood behind the reception desk pretending to review inventory sheets. In reality, he kept glancing toward Monica. His conscience was fighting a battle his job description had never mentioned. He had joined Hayes Automotive Group 8 months earlier because he believed it was different from other dealerships. Training videos spoke about respect. Leadership seminars spoke about integrity. Customer service meetings repeated the same phrase over and over. Every customer matters. Yet what he was seeing today looked nothing like the company he thought he had joined. Trevor walked past him carrying a tablet. "Do not waste another minute on her," he muttered quietly. "She is not buying anything." Ethan looked toward Monica again. "How do you know?" Trevor stopped walking. "Because I have been doing this for 20 years. That is not really an answer," Ethan replied before he could stop himself. Trevor's eyes narrowed. "You want to make sales or make speeches?" Ethan looked down. Trevor smirked and continued walking. The exchange lasted only a few seconds, but Monica noticed it. She noticed the hesitation in Ethan's posture. She noticed the frustration on his face. Most importantly, she noticed that he had questioned the assumption everyone else seemed willing to accept. Several minutes later, Monica moved toward a display area featuring the dealership's newest luxury SUV lineup. Ethan finally made a decision. He left the reception desk and approached her directly. His heartbeat felt louder with every step. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "I would like to apologize for how you have been treated today." Monica turned toward him. Her expression remained calm. "That takes courage." Ethan glanced around the showroom before lowering his voice. "Not enough courage. I should have said something sooner." Monica studied him for a moment. The showroom lights reflected across polished vehicle surfaces like still water. Around them, business continued, but Ethan no longer seemed interested in pretending everything was normal. "What exactly do you think happened here?" Monica asked. Ethan hesitated. Then he answered honestly. "I think people made decisions before they knew anything about you." Monica nodded once. "And why do you think that happened?" Ethan followed her gaze toward Trevor, who was laughing with another employee near the finance office. "Because some people decide who belongs before they ever start a conversation." The words hung in the air. Simple. Direct. True. Monica noticed something shift inside him. The fear was still there, but another emotion had begun pushing against it. Conviction. Across the showroom floor, Trevor suddenly noticed Ethan speaking with Monica again. His smile vanished. He started walking toward them immediately, fast enough to show irritation, slow enough to avoid making a scene. By the time he arrived, several nearby customers were already watching. Trevor looked directly at Ethan. "I thought I gave you instructions." Ethan straightened his shoulders. For the first time all morning, he did not look away. And I think you gave the wrong ones. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything that had happened so far. Because for the first time that day, someone inside the dealership had finally chosen a side. The silence after Ethan's words spread across the showroom like a storm cloud nobody could ignore. Trevor stared at him for several seconds, almost as if he could not believe what he had just heard. Around them, conversations faded. Customers who had been browsing vehicles now openly watched. Even employees standing near the finance office seemed unsure where to look. Trevor forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "You are making a mistake," he said. Ethan held his ground. "Maybe." Trevor stepped closer. "Go back to your desk." "No." The single word landed harder than anyone expected. Monica remained silent. She did not need to intervene. The truth was beginning to reveal itself on its own. Trevor's face tightened. He turned away from Ethan and focused on Monica instead. "Ma'am, I think it is time for you to leave." Several customers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Monica tilted her head slightly. "Why?" Trevor folded his arms. "Because you are disrupting business." Monica looked around the showroom. Customers were still shopping. Salespeople were still moving between desks. Phones were still ringing. "I have barely spoken," she replied. Trevor opened his mouth, then closed it again. Logic was not helping him anymore. The situation had moved beyond facts. It had become personal. That was when Monica noticed a familiar feeling rising from somewhere deep in her memory. Suddenly, she was no longer standing inside a modern dealership surrounded by polished vehicles and bright showroom lights. She was 22 years old again, fresh out of college, sitting on a hard plastic chair inside a small dealership nearly 1,000 miles away. She remembered wearing her best business suit. She remembered carrying a folder filled with financial documents. She remembered the salesman looking at her credit approval letter and then looking at her face. "Are you sure this paperwork belongs to you?" he had asked. The room had laughed. Not loudly, just enough. Enough to make her feel invisible. Enough to make her understand exactly what assumptions looked like when they wore a smile. She remembered walking out of that dealership, fighting tears she refused to show. She remembered promising herself something that day. One day she would build something better. One day nobody would have to earn basic respect before receiving it. The memory faded. The showroom returned. The lights. The customers. Trevor. Ethan. Everything came back into focus. Yet the feeling remained. Not anger. Not resentment. Resolve. Across the showroom floor, the construction worker who had been ignored earlier finally spoke up. "She has not done anything wrong." Another customer nodded. "I have been watching this for 20 minutes. Trevor looked irritated. "This is an internal matter." "No," the older woman near reception replied. "It became everyone's matter when you started treating people differently." Her voice was calm, but it carried across the room. Several customers nodded in agreement. Trevor suddenly looked less certain than before. The confidence that had filled the showroom earlier was beginning to crack. Monica glanced upward once more. The security cameras remained fixed on the floor below. Quiet. Unmoving. Recording every second. Every decision. Every word. Then her phone vibrated softly inside her pocket. She looked down at the screen. A single message had arrived. The investigation team had completed its preliminary review. The timing made her almost smile. Because while Trevor believed he was gaining control of the situation, the truth was moving in an entirely different direction. The message remained on Monica's screen for only a moment before she locked the phone and slipped it back into her pocket. Nothing about her expression changed. That was what unsettled people most. Not anger. Not threats. Calm. The kind of calm that came from knowing exactly what was happening while everyone else was still guessing. Trevor noticed the phone. "Calling someone?" he asked with a sarcastic smile. Monica looked at him. "Something like that." Trevor laughed and turned toward the customers who had started questioning him. "Ladies and gentlemen, there is no issue here. We are simply trying to maintain a professional environment." The older woman folded her arms. Professional would have been helping her when she walked in. Several heads nodded. Trevor's smile weakened again. Across the showroom, employees exchanged nervous glances. The mood had shifted. Earlier, people had followed Trevor automatically. Now they were watching him, evaluating him. The difference was subtle, but it mattered. Ethan remained near Monica. He could feel tension building like pressure before a storm. Every instinct told him something larger was unfolding. Monica glanced toward the front entrance. Beyond the glass walls, vehicles moved through the parking lot under the afternoon sun. Everything outside looked normal. Inside, the dealership felt different. Charged. Waiting. Her phone vibrated again. This time she answered. Rachel. The voice on the other end was immediate and professional. We have completed the preliminary review. Monica walked a few steps away, though she made no effort to hide the conversation. What did you find? The complaints were accurate. More accurate than we expected. Customer surveys, internal reports, sales allocation records, and camera footage all point to the same pattern. Monica's eyes moved across the showroom floor. Trevor, Scott, Karen, several others. How extensive? She asked. Rachel paused. Enough to trigger Protocol 7. Monica stopped walking. Around her, conversations seemed to fade into the background. Protocol 7 was not activated lightly. In 20 years, she had approved it only a handful of times. Understood, Monica replied. Proceed. Rachel's voice remained steady. Human resources, compliance, and regional operations are already connected. We are monitoring in real time. Monica nodded once. Keep recording everything. Already done. The call ended. Trevor watched from across the showroom. Everything okay? He asked loudly. Monica slipped her phone away. Better than okay. Something in her tone caused a few employees to exchange uneasy looks. Trevor forced another smile, but confidence no longer came naturally. The construction worker who had been ignored earlier was finally speaking with a salesperson. The older woman remained near the reception desk. Even customers who had no idea what was happening seemed reluctant to leave. Ethan noticed it too. People were staying, waiting, almost as if they sensed a reveal approaching. Above them, the security cameras continued their silent work. Every conversation, every interaction, every choice, preserved. Monica looked around the showroom one more time. She had entered the building as an anonymous customer. She had been redirected, underestimated, and dismissed. Yet the most important discovery had not been Trevor's behavior. It had been the culture surrounding it. The laughter, the silence, the willingness of some people to look away. At the same time, another truth had emerged. Ethan had spoken up. Customers had spoken up. Not everyone had accepted what they were seeing. Not everyone had chosen convenience over principle. Monica felt the final pieces moving into place. Somewhere inside the dealership systems, reports were being reviewed. Access permissions were being prepared. Decisions were being finalized. Trevor still believed he was managing a difficult customer. He had no idea that the audit had already begun. He had no idea that executives several states away were now watching the same footage. And he certainly had no idea that within the next few minutes, the entire showroom was about to learn exactly who Monica Hayes really was. The showroom seemed to slow down without anyone realizing it. Conversations became quieter. Employees stopped pretending not to watch. Customers lingered near vehicles they had already examined. The entire building felt suspended between two moments. One ending, another about to begin. Trevor checked his watch and shook his head. I think this has gone on long enough, he said. If you are not here to purchase a vehicle, I need you to leave. Monica looked at him calmly. You have been trying to make me leave since the moment I arrived. Trevor shrugged. Because some people waste our time. The words landed heavily. No one laughed this time. No one joined in. Even the employees standing closest to him seemed uncomfortable. Ethan remained silent, but his expression said everything. Trevor no longer sounded confident. He sounded exposed. Monica slowly stepped toward the center of the showroom floor. The polished tile reflected the overhead lights beneath her feet. Every eye followed her. Customers, employees, managers, service advisors, reception staff. The entire dealership seemed drawn into a circle of attention without moving an inch. Monica stopped beneath one of the security cameras and folded her hands. You know what fascinates me? She asked. Nobody answered. People rarely show you who they are when they think someone important is watching. Her voice was calm, measured, impossible to ignore. They show you who they are when they believe nobody important is in the room. Trevor rolled his eyes. Here comes the speech. Monica looked directly at him. No, here comes the truth. The showroom fell silent. Somewhere in the service department, a distant door closed. Then nothing, just stillness. Monica turned slowly, looking across the employees gathered nearby. This morning I walked into this building wearing jeans, sneakers, and a black t-shirt. Her eyes moved from face to face. Within minutes I was redirected away from luxury vehicles. Assumptions were made about my finances. My intentions. My value. Trevor folded his arms tighter. You are taking everything personally. Monica nodded slightly. That is the interesting part. She paused. This was never personal. Confusion spread across several faces. Monica continued. You did not fail because you disrespected me. The room seemed to lean forward. You failed because you treated every customer you believed was powerless the exact same way. Trevor's smile disappeared completely. Monica reached into her pocket and removed her phone. At that exact moment, several employees felt their own phones vibrate. Then several more. Notification after notification appeared across the showroom floor. Curious glances turned into nervous ones. Managers checked their screens. Salespeople frowned. The color drained from more than one face. Ethan looked down at his own device. An internal company alert filled the display. Corporate compliance review active. Immediate attendance required. Trevor stared at his screen. His jaw tightened. Monica watched the realization arrive. Slowly. Reluctantly. Inevitably. What is this? Trevor asked. For the first time all day, uncertainty dominated his voice. Monica slipped her phone away. You spent hours deciding I did not belong in this dealership. She took another step forward. Now let me tell you something you should have known before I walked through the front door. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Monica's voice remained steady. My name is Monica Hayes. The silence deepened. Founder and Chief Executive Officer of Hayes Automotive Group. It felt as if the entire showroom stopped breathing. Trevor stared at her. Scott stared at her. Karen stared at her. Customers exchanged stunned looks. Ethan closed his eyes briefly as understanding rushed over him. The woman everyone had dismissed was not a customer. She was not a visitor. She was the person whose name stood above the entrance. And suddenly, every decision made that day carried a very different weight. For several long seconds, nobody moved. The showroom stood frozen beneath the weight of the revelation. Trevor looked as though the floor beneath him had shifted. His eyes moved from Monica to the giant Hayes Automotive Group logo visible through the front glass, and then back again. The connection finally settled in. Around him, employees stared at their phones as additional notifications continued arriving. Internal audit. Compliance review. Human resources directive. Emergency management conference. The words appeared one after another like falling dominoes. Monica remained calm. She did not raise her voice. She did not celebrate. She simply watched people confront the consequences of choices they had made when they believed nobody important was paying attention. Trevor swallowed hard. This is some kind of misunderstanding, he said. The confidence that had carried him all afternoon was gone. Monica looked at him steadily. No. The misunderstanding happened when you decided who deserved respect before learning who they were. Several customers exchanged glances. The older woman near reception nodded slowly. The construction worker folded his arms and shook his head. Across the showroom, Scott checked his phone again. His expression darkened. Karen looked pale. One by one, employees began reading the same message. Effective immediately, selected staff members were being placed under review pending investigation findings. Access privileges would be adjusted as required. Compliance interviews would begin that afternoon. Trevor stared at the screen in disbelief. You cannot judge an entire career based on one day. Monica's gaze never wavered. This investigation did not start today. The room grew quiet again. Over the last several weeks, customer complaints, survey data, sales records, and camera footage revealed patterns that could not be ignored. Today simply confirmed what the evidence already suggested. Trevor looked around for support. None came. Even the employees who had laughed earlier remained silent. Because the problem was no longer one interaction. It was culture. Monica slowly walked toward the center reception area. A healthy workplace does not fail because one person makes a mistake, she said. It fails when good people watch the mistake happen and decide silence is easier. Ethan lowered his eyes briefly. Monica noticed. And it improves when someone finally chooses to speak. Ethan looked up. For the first time all day, there was no uncertainty in his expression. Nearby customers began murmuring among themselves. Some praised Ethan quietly. Others talked about the behavior they had witnessed. The dealership no longer felt like a showroom. It felt like a mirror. Every person present was seeing something reflected back at them. Then another notification appeared. This one carried immediate effect. Several employee system credentials had been suspended pending final review. Trevor's phone vibrated. Scott's vibrated. Karen's vibrated. More followed. The realization spread across their faces almost simultaneously. Corporate had acted. Monica did not smile. There was nothing enjoyable about reaching this point. Accountability was necessary, but it was never her favorite part of leadership. Half the staff in this location will be leaving the organization or entering disciplinary review based on documented findings, she said. A collective gasp moved through the room. Trevor stared at her, speechless. Monica continued, not because of me, because of choices. Repeated choices. Outside, the afternoon sunlight still poured through the glass walls. Inside, the culture of the dealership was changing in real time. Customers watched. Employees listened. And for the first time that day, nobody was looking at Monica's clothes. Nobody was making assumptions. They were finally paying attention to the only thing that had mattered from the beginning: character. The showroom remained quiet long after the notifications stopped arriving. Nobody seemed eager to be the first person to speak. The tension that had filled the building earlier had been replaced by something else. Reflection. Reality. Consequences. Monica stood near the center of the floor beneath the bright lights that reflected across rows of polished vehicles. The same vehicles she had been discouraged from touching only hours earlier. Trevor stared at the ground. Scott looked exhausted. Karen remained frozen beside a sales desk. Around them, customers slowly began returning to conversations, but even those conversations sounded different now. Softer, more thoughtful. The older woman who had defended Monica earlier stepped forward. "Thank you," she said. Monica turned toward her. "For what?" The woman smiled faintly. "For proving that respect should not depend on appearances." Monica nodded. "It never should." Nearby, the construction worker who had been ignored earlier shook his head. "I have walked into places like this my whole life," he said. "Usually nobody notices." Monica looked at him carefully. "That is exactly the problem." The words lingered in the air. Not because they were dramatic. Because they were true. Ethan stood a few feet away listening. Throughout the day, he had watched assumptions become decisions and decisions become behavior. He had watched people choose comfort over courage. Then he had chosen differently. Monica walked toward him. Every employee in the showroom seemed to watch the exchange. Ethan straightened his posture. "I should have spoken sooner," he said. Monica smiled slightly. "Most people never speak at all." Ethan looked down briefly. "I was afraid." "I know. What happens now?" Monica glanced around the dealership. "Now we rebuild." The answer surprised him. It surprised several employees standing nearby as well. Because Monica had never come to destroy anything. She had come to understand it. There was a difference. Her phone vibrated once more. A message from regional operations confirmed that interim management would arrive the next morning. Additional training programs would begin immediately. Customer service standards would be reviewed across every location in the company. Monica read the message and slipped the phone away. The work was only beginning. Outside the glass walls, the afternoon sun had started its slow descent. Golden light stretched across the showroom floor. Employees who remained with the company would remember this day for years. Customers would tell the story. Some would focus on the reveal. Others would focus on the consequences. Monica hoped they remembered something deeper. She looked around one final time. "A luxury vehicle is not what defines this company," she said. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. Buildings do not define it. Revenue does not define it. Market share does not define it. Nobody interrupted. The real test of character happens when you meet someone who appears to have no power over you. Several employees lowered their eyes. Others nodded slowly. Monica continued. "Because the way you treat that person reveals who you really are." Silence followed. Not uncomfortable silence. Honest silence. The kind that appears when people recognize a truth they cannot argue with. Monica picked up her keys and began walking toward the exit. She passed the luxury SUV that had started everything. This time nobody told her not to touch it. This time nobody questioned whether she belonged. Before stepping through the doors, she paused and looked back once. "I did not raise my voice today," she said. "I raised the standard." Then she walked into the fading sunlight, leaving behind a dealership that looked exactly the same on the outside, but would never be the same again.